one of the many good things that came out of the pandemic was time to focus on self and personal lives. Personal finance was a huge part of this, and many turned to learning about markets and investments and how they could make their money work for them. So I'm excited to announce our next session, Investing in Mutual Funds. I would like to welcome Mr. Neelabh Sanyal, the CEO of Kuvera.in, an IIM alumni. Neelabh is a professional with ample experience across financial services disciplines, including investment banking, treasury, wholesale and private banking, and engaged in developing and leveraging technology to redefine the delivery of personal financial products and services. Welcome, Neelabh. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome to Skills Factor 2022. And I'm sure our audience cannot wait any longer for this session. Neelabh, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Maya. Thanks for having me here. Thanks to EduBridge and Girish for having me here, for inviting me for this discussion. So let me start by first wishing you, all of you all, a very happy Republic Day and a very healthy and prosperous year ahead. We cannot have any conversation without talking about health at this point in time. Just a quick check. I hope I'm audible to you guys. Okay. So I know I've been sort of joining in periodically, and I know it has been a long day for a lot of you, and I promise to keep this very crisp. So the topic is investing in mutual funds, and we get to talking about that very quickly. But let me start by sharing some thoughts on how investing can actually transform our lives. And before we get to that part, let's talk about why a lot of us do not invest. And we did this, kind of a survey amongst a lot of young professionals, people who are in the first, 1 to 5 years of their career. And what we heard from folks was that I'm too young, and I can get to investing later. Another common refrain was that I don't have enough money left at the end of the month to invest, or just that I don't make enough money and I cannot buy this. I cannot save money to buy things that I want in the future. Well, the reality is that you can start by investing as little as 500 rupees a month. In fact, now there are options to invest as little as 100 rupees a month as well. And the main point here is it's never too early to start investing. In fact, the sooner you start, the better it is, because you have time on your side. And this is the way to sort of make the best use of the available time. Even if you have small sums of money, you should definitely consider starting investing as soon as possible. The next very common framing is that I don't understand how I don't understand this concept of investing, returns, and or it is just that it is too risky. It is something which is as a concept is alien to us. I get my salary, I make I pay my rent, I sort of spend on the things that I need. Whatever is left is lying in my savings account, or I put it in a fixed deposit. Now, an interesting point here is in India we get some sort of return on the amount kept in the savings account as well. But contrast that with what you would have made if you had invested in mutual funds, or if you had invested in equity markets. So money sitting in a savings account would have grown to about 2.5 times over the last 10 years. Whereas if you had invested the same money at the same periods of time into mutual funds, that and in fact a simple index fund, that money would have grown to almost 10 times. So mutual funds are, or rather investing is, how do you leverage investing to your advantage is what something we will see very soon. The third very common argument is that we are too busy and we just don't have the time to invest or to plan for the future. But reality is that our, we do end up spending on our short-term wants. Um, iPhones, buying an iPhone, buying the latest Pixel phone, or even a gaming PC, a motorbike. These are some of the most common expenses that folks end up spending on in the first 3 to 5 years. So it's not like you don't have time and you don't, sort of aspire to own those products that that you desire or that you want. But it's just that you're thinking very short term versus thinking and planning for the long term. So these are some of the top, and I just listed down 3 reasons. Some of these may be true, and I mean, my best wishes to each of you for better, well-paying jobs. But most often, the it is about balancing needs versus wants. Our needs don't change. Needs are our requirements that needs are roti kapda aur makan, right? We need food to eat. We need shelter over roof over our heads, and these are some of our basic requirements. These don't change significantly. I'm not going to start sort of eating 3x if I earn more. uh, our wants are basically what sort of understanding our wants and having a plan on how we want to achieve our wants. Investing is something that can help us get to that part, and that is a good part about investing. Um Examples of some wants would be like buying a house. If you have kids, then planning for their education. Uh, Buying a maybe buying a car or upgrading your car, building a retirement corpus. In fact, even the examples that I gave previously, buying the latest iPhone or buying a motorbike or a gaming PC. These are fairly large. These require fairly large amounts of capital now, and these are also financial goals. These are also our wants. But the difference is that these are short term in nature versus building a retirement purpose is long term in nature. So these are so understanding what my wants are and sort of putting them into a tabular form, right from short term to long term, and then uh, building a plan on how to sort of achieve that is what is financial planning, and that is what we do. But it's not very complicated. It does not take too much time, uh, contrary to what a lot of people think. Financial planning or doing your own personal financial planning, it's a matter of a couple of hours every month, if that. Most of the time, I probably wouldn't have reviewed my financial plan in the last 6 to 12 months. Uh, so I look at my financial plan once a year. We are salaried folks, right? Salaried folks, your income is fixed, your expenses are more or less known largely, except for any medical emergencies, etc. You have a fairly predictable pool of money, which pool of savings. You know how much money you can save every month, right? Uh, so these are you know some of the high level concepts. Now about starting early, I want to share one anecdote. So uh, I started in my investing journey. I started pretty late, and of course, hindsight is perfect. So I wish I would have started as early as possible. Uh, but just to sort of make this point very sharply, if I had started saving when I was 25, then by the time I was ready to retire, just a 5,000 rupee a month would have translated into 3.2 crores. Of course, making certain assumptions about the returns that you would make on the investment that we do. But 5,000 rupees a month starting age 25 up to age 60, you would have ended up with about 3.2 crores, right? Uh, if the same thing, if you start the same investment at age 40 uh, with 3x the amount, so instead of 5,000, you are now investing close to 15,000 rupees at age 40. Just the difference of 15 years. That would translate into 1.5 crores. So you're investing 3x the money. You are investing, you're earning the same rate of return, assuming, but you're ending up with less than half at the end of, by the time you retire. So what is the difference? What is the only difference between the two examples is the time in which, while, the time for which your money is working for you. So short point, the sooner you start, the better it is. It doesn't matter whether it is 5,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees or 500 rupees. Get started and get started now. Uh, Now talking about some of the reasons why we should invest. Some of from a financial personal finance perspective, our worst enemy, which we want to beat, is inflation. Right? Uh, Simply put, what is inflation? The cost of a loaf of bread 10 years ago would be probably 30% of what it costs today. So bread has become 3 times more expensive. You know. You could buy an egg for 2 rupees. Today that egg costs 8 rupees or 10 rupees, depending on the kind of egg that you buy. Right. So in general, I mean, this is translating it into mathematical terms. We have had inflation ranging from 10, 11% to 8%, 9% as well in the over the last 10-year period. So we want to invest because we want our money to be able to earn a return which is better than this inflation, right? Uh, that's one reason. The second reason is we want to invest because we want to get into a planned approach to meeting our financial goals, right? Um, an example would be some of the things that I kept talking about, a gaming PC or um, the latest iPhone. When the launch event happens, you see that the iPhone is now available for whatever 1,10,000, 1,20,000, and you get very it sends your heart racing, and you check your credit card limit, and you realize that okay, credit card pay swipe, and I can get that product, right? So you just swipe your card and you buy the latest iPhone. Even the gaming PC, you realize that you can afford it today by taking a loan and buying it. That doesn't happen when you think about buying a car. That cannot happen. When you think about, or even thinking even further, buying a house, you can't swipe your card and buy a 2 crore, 3 crore, 5 crore house. Right? And why is that? Because it is a large need. It is sometime into the future, and we don't want to visualize something which is in the future. Uh, is it easy to meet that need? It's not easy. I mean, let's be sort of honest, because our needs will also keep, our wants will also keep changing. Today I want to buy a 2 BHK. 5 years from now I want to buy a 3 BHK. 10 years from now I might be in a different city. If I shifted from Delhi to Bombay, then suddenly I have to think of a 1 BHK because of where real estate is. But the point of the matter is that it is a requirement which is harder to visualize. Uh, Retirement. People don't think about retirement till the time they are, beyond 35, or rather, in terms of life stage, uh, people will start thinking about retirement when they have, when they get married, when they have kids, when they start putting their kids to school. That is when the first time that they will start thinking of retirement. For folks who are not married, they will start thinking about retirement around 35, 40, or even later. क्योंकि मेरा काम तो चल रहा है, I don't need to sort of think about retirement. Fundamentally, retirement is a time when you are not actively working to generate income, right? So that is a time when you want your savings or a accumulated pool of money to take care of your needs and wants once you are, sort of once you've left your job, or uh, once you've gone out of commission, so to speak, whether it is, consciously or because you hit a age limit. So these are fundamentally financial goals, and we'll talk about financial goals next. Uh, and the last reason why we should invest is so that we don't end up spending everything. Uh, because that's the other thing, I have 20,000 rupees left in my account, and I see something I like, I will probably end up spending. I'm a gadget freak, so if I see, some new headphone or something new that is getting launched, and I have some money sitting idle, I say, okay, let me buy this. It's something, and that way, these small amounts, 5,000, 10,000 rupees over a period of time, we'll realize that if they're just sitting in your account, you'll either end up spending it on things that you may not want or need, um, at that point in time, which is also called buyer's remorse. Because once you own it, then you feel that really, right? Fancy shoes, another example. Uh, but fundamentally, uh, you are not thinking about, if you take that money away, and if it is out of sight, then most likely it will remain safe uh, from such, actions of yours for a longer period of time. So three reasons: beat inflation, meet your financial goals, and so that we don't end up spending everything that we save, right? Uh, so I kept using the term financial goal over the last, few minutes that I've been talking. Uh, what is a financial goal? A financial goal basically is, there are just two or three variables that define a financial goal. Of course, financial goal is buying a house, but our financial goal is uh, buying a car, saving for education, saving for marriage. Uh, but these are just names, right? What are the real variables is what is that money that you need to buy that house. So let's say you have an estimate today that I want to buy a house for 1 year, right? And after 5 years, or you want to achieve that financial goal in 10 years time. So if you assume that uh, you know the real estate inflation is at a certain rate, let's say 5%, that house cost may, over a 10-year period, it may be around 2 crores, right? And so this is the value, the target value of your financial goal. That is one. And second, I said 10 years. So the horizon that you have, when do you want to achieve or meet that financial goal? When do you think you'll want to buy the house? Uh, some of these things are well defined, some of these things are not well defined. For example, probably if you're salaried, retirement age is defined, right? So you'll either retire at 58 or 60, whatever is the regulatory age. Uh, these are the two variables which define what your financial goals are. It's that simple. And you can just make a, list of your financial goals and say that, I need this much money for this goal in 10 years, I need this much money for this goal in 5 years, and you can have a ladder that you can create for yourself, right? So now you have your goals. Now you have, when you will need that money, and you can choose what you want to prioritize, right? Uh, Now comes the interesting part: how to build that financial plan, right? This is basically, these are the inputs that go into the financial plan, and how do we build that financial plan. And one of the ways to, uh, one of the tools, or one of the investment vehicles to achieve that financial plan is a mutual fund. And we get to talking about mutual fund in a bit. I want to talk about two more concepts. One is, and we already spoke about that. One is time, and the other one is risk. Uh, Now, what is this risk? What is this animal called risk? What do we, what do we, what are we scared about? One is that lack of knowledge. So if we don't know about something, uh, then that is a kind of risk, right? Because you don't know your, it's uncertain. What will happen? How will it happen? When will I get my money? Where will it come from? How much money do I need to save? These are all uncertainties, and this is one type of risk. The other risk is risk associated with markets. Markets are not in anybody's control. They don't obey any commands, at least in the forward. Um, in some years, you will have fantastic returns. In some years, you will have less than fantastic returns. In some years, you may not have very attractive returns, right? So, but one thing is, Constant, I can give you an example over here as well. If you had invested 10 years ago, or rather, let me put it this way, in the last 20 years, if you invested in any of the years and you had stayed invested for 10 years, you would have made money 100% of the time. If you had invested for 7 years or more, you would have made money 90% of the time. If you had invested for 5 years or more, or rather 3 years, you would have made money 70% of the time. So there are times when you don't make money, which means you get more money out of than what you started with. But again, the point is that the longer you stay invested, the better capable your investment portfolio is to handle risk. Because in this context, in the context of assuming that you have done your homework and you studied, you understand mutual funds क्या होते हैं, कैसे invest करते हैं, कैसे पैसे निकालते हैं. Once you understand all of that, the market risk is basically the more time you have, the better it is for you. The more risk you can think about taking. If you want to make an expense in 6 months' time, let's say, right? And suppose you have 5 lakhs sitting in your account and you want to make a down payment for buying a car, and you have just 6 months. You're not going to invest it in a risky instrument. You're going to probably keep it in your savings account. You're probably going to put it in a fixed deposit, right? But if you have 10 years and you want to save 50 lakhs, you can start by investing a small sum of money, saving towards that goal, and building that money up, building that balance up. And because you have that 10-year horizon, you are going to sort of benefit from that time where risk acts in your favor rather than against you. Simple, just keeping it very simple. But risk is basically volatility, risk is uncertainty, and the longer you stay invested, the better chances are that you will beat risk or make risk work for you rather than against you. The more risk you take, the higher return, the lesser risk, lower the return. These things remain true, but if you introduce time into this as a variable, then the longer the horizon, the more risk you can take and you should take. The shorter the horizon, the less risk you should take. So these are two, concepts, time and risk, that you should understand when you start your investing journey. Now coming to sort of what are fundamentally. Okay, let me summarize very quickly. What are the 3 or 4 pillars that we discussed? Start now rather than later. Invest as much as you can. Whatever you save, you should consider investing. Don't think of risk as your enemy. Think of how you can use risk to your advantage. And this is where the time horizon comes into play. And fourthly, define your financial goals. Having that, however vague it may be, some things you may not know today what kind of house you want, but at some point you want your house. At some point you are going to retire. You are going to need money after that, right? So define your financial goals. Keep a list of, your goals ready. Now, what are the investment options that are available to us? And coming to now specifically talking about mutual funds, there are various sets of investment options that present that are presented to us whenever we want to make an investment. Of course, the trusty old fixed deposit is always there. All of us would have salary accounts. and there is an option net banking में जाओ fixed deposit में पैसा डालो and money would earn certain rate of return, right? These are the lowest risk instruments. There is limited liquidity um, because if you withdraw sooner, uh, then there is some penalty that you will pay, so you will not end up getting that return. There are other instruments like Public Provident Fund, PPF, EPF, National Pension Scheme. Uh, these are again instruments of the fixed return kind of instruments. Here, the risk is very low, but these are longer term investments. Breaking these investments, either it's not possible or they come with certain penalties, which means that you will get even lesser return than what you thought when you started out. Right? Now, in terms of outside of these, then there is an option to invest in real estate. Personally, I don't think real estate is a great investment option because of multiple reasons. Primarily the reason being the amount corpus required is very large to make a real estate investment. You can't buy 1 square foot. You have to buy 500 square foot, 700 square foot. That's the minimum ticket size, right? So that defines your ticket size. And liquidity. If you need to withdraw that money in an emergency, then withdrawing money from real estate means you have to find a buyer. You have to, that buyer has to meet your price requirements, and then you'll get that money. Probably a 5 to 6 month process. Then there is gold as well. Indians consider gold as a very highly preferred choice of investing. It is a reasonable choice to make, but again, there are huge frictions when you invest in gold, especially physical gold. There are frictions being there are making charges, 5 to 8% making charges when you're buying gold, which sort of take away from the value of gold. And it's not like you can sell that gold very easily. You have to exchange it into further gold ornaments, right? So they help you to take a later, sort of loan against gold or something like that. So it's not it's not a fantastic investment option, but it gives you a lot of comfort that that option is there. Now, obviously, I'm building this up towards mutual fund, and mutual fund is a pooled investment vehicle fundamentally, right? There is a fund manager who is managing a mutual fund scheme. Before making an investment, you'll already know what is the objective of that mutual fund scheme, which segment of the market is that mutual fund scheme going to invest in, and what is the fund's objective, right? At a very high level, there are two types of mutual fund. One is equity and the other is debt. The longer the investment horizon, the better it is. And there, the equity mutual fund fit in more from the perspective of investment horizon, like we just discussed. And debt mutual funds are generally meant for shorter investment horizon. When I say long and short, I mean 3 to 7 years. Typically, less than 3 to 7 years is medium term. Less than 3 years is short term, and 7 years and more is considered to be long term. Right. So we went through a whole bunch of investment options. Mutual funds seem like the most appealing, at least to me, especially for folks who are salaried, primarily because it's a fixed sum of money. There is this amazing way, sort of method, systematic investment plan, SIP, where you put a small sum of money every month. It goes out of your savings account. You don't see that money, which means it is getting saved. You already decide in which funds you want to invest in, and therefore it will keep getting accumulated over time without you doing anything. There was one ad which used to say, fill it, shut it, forget it. So this is something, an SIP, something like that, right? So that is what a mutual fund is. In terms of liquidity, once you made an investment, typically mutual funds, they're very easy to withdraw within 3 to 4 days. In the worst case, within 3 to 7 days, the money will come back into your account. Other thing is very transparent. Prices are visible. You do online and you can place an order online, right? So basically, investors put in their money. There's a fund manager who invests into different instruments. These are called securities. This is what generates return, and whatever returns are generated, these are passed back to investors, and investors will be, and investors are us. So this is how things work in mutual funds. Uh, why should we consider mutual funds? Fundamentally, they are professionally managed. There's a concept of diversification, which we probably won't delve into too much right now, but diversification, the more diversified our investment portfolio is, the better it is from a long-term investment perspective. Uh, the saying is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So diversification is that. Mutual funds are regulated by SEBI, and they're safe and transparent. So definitely consider investing in mutual funds. In terms of investment horizon, we already spoke about investment horizon and the return. Shorter the investment horizon, consider money market mutual funds, liquid mutual funds, which have lower returns but less risk, less volatility associated with them. The longer the investment horizon, consider equity mutual funds. So this is at a very high level about mutual funds. I know I spoke at a very staccato speed, but happy to sort of take any questions if there is time. How are we doing in terms of time?
Thanks, Neelabh. We can take one or two questions, since this is the last session, so we have no stress about anybody else logging in. So I'll just, we'll take one or two questions from the audience, and then we have Moses who has one question. So so there's one question which says, what is a good expense ratio for a mutual fund? That's by Tilesh.
Okay. So interesting. So that shows some amount of homework. So expense ratio is, for the rest of the audience, expense ratio is it's like the fee that the fund manager or the AMC, the mutual fund house, charges for managing your money, right? Expense ratio in isolation, it's very hard to sort of say that this percent you should target funds with this kind of an expense ratio. In each segment, there will be, in each category of mutual funds, and there are various categories. I said debt and equity, but there are, within equity, there will be multiple categories of mutual fund schemes. In debt also, there will be multiple categories of mutual fund schemes. And expense ratios can range from as low as 0.1% to as high as 2% plus, right? So depending on which category you are investing in, and you can see this, you can see for the category of funds. So let's say you are investing in sectoral funds, which are very high risk funds. There generally the expense ratio will be higher, and you can see what is the average for that category. And if the expense ratio for that particular fund is lower, it is better, assuming everything else remains the same, because you can't judge a mutual fund purely by its expense ratio.
Okay, Moses, you could go next with a question. Yeah.
Hey Neelabh, thanks. I mean, amazing the way you've explained things. So I'm just going to put one a question across to you, right? Just to understand certain things, because since all of us being corporate employees, a lot of us only think of mutual funds as tax savers at the time of filing for returns, or the moment when the IT thing comes up, right? In March, we all think of, "Arey, tax saver lena hai, kuch bhi karke, kitne tax saver mein paise dalna hai." So we don't think about the other aspects of the mutual fund which are also there. So we start putting a lot of money in these tax savers, just to so that the IT is not taking money from us. So we put money in those tax savers. So anything that you would like to put light on that? How would you like to kind of explain to us how can we go about doing that?
So Moses, you're not alone. Most folks start their investment journey, especially in mutual fund investment journey, by doing ELSS. It's called ELSS, the tax saving funds. They are called ELSS. So they are a great option, by the way. You are locked in for 3 years when you make an ELSS investment, and which is one of the shortest lock-ins, by the way. And these are funds which are investing in markets. So they are generating returns from investing in markets. They are not fixed income instruments in that sense. And oftentimes they have given much better returns than staying invested in other tax saving options, which are, I don't even call insurance a sort of an investment option, because I think of insurance purely as a means for protection. But other investment options such as real estate, because you won't invest in real estate for 3 years, right? When you say real estate and tax saving, I mean from a housing loan perspective. So they are a great investment, sort of investment option. But if you don't have the need to invest into tax saving funds, why would that be? Because either you already your provident fund contribution from your salary deduction is enough, which is 1.5 lakh rupees per annum, which is roughly 12 point something thousand rupees a month, right? So if already your salary deduction and your PF contribution is 12,000 plus rupees per month, you actually don't need to invest in ELSS mutual funds or tax saver mutual funds. In that scenario, there is a whole bunch of mutual fund investment options which are available, where the advantage over ELSS mutual funds. I mean, basically, I'm saying that let me take that constraint away. Tax saving ke liye nahi karna hai. So now I have ELSS mutual funds, I have other options in equity mutual funds, and I have, depending on my investment horizon, I can match and choose which kind of funds I want to invest in without the constraint of a 3-year lock-in, right? 3-year lock-in, matlab I can't sell that, scheme or that fund before the 3-year period. So one is this advantage. The other advantage is that ELSS investments are governed by certain regulations, which specify where those funds can invest. And whereas active, non-ELSS funds, which can be, sectoral funds, thematic funds, etc., a digital India fund, there are a whole bunch of, such schemes which are available. You basically have a much wider variety of funds to invest in. But the point is that this, January is the period when we get that mail from HR. Please submit your income tax return proofs for the declaration that you made in April of this year, and then your, sort of to claim that deduction, you have to make that investment. But this is also a good time to start your SIP. If you don't need to invest in tax saver funds, and if you have some savings, consider starting an SIP. Just go online. There are enough tools available. I'm not saying go to Kuvera and start investing using Kuvera. Of course, by all means, do that. We will be very happy to have folks come to Kuvera and doing that. But there are unlimited options available where you can evaluate what different schemes are available and start that journey. And even if it's a small amount, trial ke liye karke dekho. You learn about investing, and like I said, it will not take too much time. The first time it will take 2-3 hours, and probably after that you need to think about it 1 year later when the next mail from HR comes.
Thank you so much, Neelabh.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, I think that's it, Neelabh. There will be a couple of more questions, but we can reach out to you separately on an email, and then we can circle back to our participants. So thank you so much, Neelabh, for your time. I think it was a very, very important session, and everybody did want to know how to go about investing in mutual funds. It was a pleasure to have you as usual. Thank you so much once again.